here.
We're not even into the game yet. Let's keep them going.
Doesn't even matter, guys. You can see the characters up on your screen. The players, I should say, up on your screen. The characters are coming as the doors part. There you go. You got people on your screen. Freak and Kobe bringing you the cheese and the commentary. Game is afoot or a fin.
And it looks like we've got one red elixir start. That's not surprising. You know, Zed, definitely one of the champions, even after the cost increase of that Fortitude elixir, he'll go back to it over and over because of that burst damage and because it adds another, little edge to that surprise factor that the Ninja brings to the table.
And you got to think about the playstyle as well that Coast uses, where it's Zion Spartan carries and he rushes his lane really hard and beats up his opponent. Yeah. And Chris is trying to say, no, you can't do that. I got a bunch of stats. But the other thing we don't talk about much in the 3.8 patch, we talk about the jungle changes a lot, and Big Fat said it didn't matter, but in this case, the starting items got changed around a little bit too, and instead of the Flask Ward potion we see so much, Vileros has opened up with the Doran's Ring and potions.
Yeah, because of that cost reduction on the Doran Ring, you can actually start it with a potion, which a lot of people aren't used to it yet, but I love that opening start. If you're on a mage that you're very confident with, like a Xerath, or something that has innate sustain like a Morgana, who can sustain off a lane. Meanwhile, we haven't talked about these invades at all here.
No.
Velocity are lying in wait, trying to set up this trap for a red side invade, which are the most common invades.
Yeah.
But Team Coast, they made their blue side successful invade, only to be seen on their exit.
And I love the mind games that are done overall by these guys, because you're right, the red side invade is so terribly common, and Coast completely bypasses that, expecting things to happen to them. I mean, we saw that even in the last game with CLG, where they basically hid the Kog'Maw successfully. With Vulcan with Zuna, they hid the Kog'Maw successfully.
They did not get any defensive wards down either, so this is dangerous for Coast. But Velocity aren't together.
No, they're not. They were spread out right there. So the Spinning Axe lands and just pushes them right out of the jungle. Looks like Coast might just have control over their own jungle thanks to that pink ward.
That's how you win level 1 fights, is you have to stay as 5 people. If there were 5 people in that bush, somebody would have died.
Yeah, Death Sentence would have been very accurate to the name. However, Vilerose and Co are still around. Death Sentence misses, and it's going to be them trying to take control. Nintendo just keeps having it aggro back and forth, wants it to stay in the brush, and has to smite it away. So the early aggression does do a little bit of pain towards Nintendo.
Yeah, some nice blind skill shots right there from the members of Velocity. Could have set Nintendo back a little bit, which is always great when you have a Jungle Jarvan, when you're against the Jungle Jarvan, because Jungle Jarvan gets going early and often with those ganks.
And I'm curious to see what actually happens in this bottom lane as well, because we do have a 2-on-2 matchup. And maybe
double bubble!
Oh, that bubble just crushes his face. The Death Sentence comes across. He's going to cleanse that. Exhaust comes by as well. The barrier pops. Everyone's using summoner spells. Now Mashmi has been ignited. He's trying to win this 1v2 against Evaniscus, but Evaniscus just wants that soul, wards the brush, and takes first blood. And he's not even done right now. Daydreamin' has got a bubble and run away from this one.
Oh, Evaniscus claims another soul. They thought that they were the ones with the advantage because of the landed double bubble, but got a little bit overconfident there. A very nice flash from Maple Street, you have to say. He gained extra distance by going over that wall there, and he left his support to do the dirty work.
And one thing that was also really good about Evaniscus is that Death Sentence pulled Mashmi away from his own spinning axe. He no longer had the Q available, really lowered his damage output. And of course, again, Evaniscus, well played on that one. We're now watching up to the top lane, and the action has started already. Zion Spartan and Chris already trading blows.
So he hasn't popped his red elixir yet. There was no level 2 versus level 1 all in from either of these guys, is what that's telling me here. And he's going to keep this sort of ace in his pocket. But you can see how defensively he's playing, because even without a level advantage, Riven, very good at bullying early. Once Riven gets all 3 of her abilities, she really just jumps up in presence in lane.
That's going to be a difficult one then. Right now, no potions were used, as you mentioned, none of the elixirs as well. So let's take a check at this mid lane, because we have real standard lanes. There's no turrets dying 30 seconds in, so we've got actual matchups. Shifter matching up against Vilerose. Vilerose is already back to buy a new Doran's Ring and a ward, whereas Shifter is just trying to shove the lane down.
And you can see Shifter's, he's fine with this one ward that they have on the top side jungle. So unless he's forced out, you can see he's still full mana and full HP. Unless he gets scared, someone burns his flash, he's not going to have to go back and buy for a while.
You can just see him clearing out, using the free spells as well. It's one of the advantages he has by playing slowly, is that passive just charges back up, and he doesn't have to care about mana whatsoever. So this matchup's been fine. We're going to take a look now at the junglers, because they might make some moves here. It's just Nintendo. Right now, he's just taking the Spirit, and of course, he's always been going like Spirit of the Ancient Golem. He's always been the one to build tank here for this team, and I don't expect this game to be much different here.
Yeah, because they definitely don't want Zion to build tanky. That's what we talked about. They always want him building pure damage, especially when you're on that Riven. Since her shield scales with AD anyway, then you get sort of some free defensive stats right there.
So Zion now pushed to his own turret and is trying to hold on against Chris. You can see that matchup is going pretty well. They're both last hitting successfully. And as we revisit the bottom lane, NK Inc. is nearby his teammates, but it might just be for the buff clears his Nintendude, who's actually looking for a real fight here, lurking for that top lane.
And it's interesting you mentioned that NK Inc. Gank, because usually a Nasus does not have very potent early ganks, but the lane that he would go to would be the lane with a Thresh in it, because Dark Passage gives him that surprise factor that he's missing.
Oh, and Chris just face checks Nintendude. He's going to try to wait. Oh, burns the flash from the flag toss. Good move there by Nintendude. Good flash by Chris, escapes.
It's a pretty big cooldown there for Chris, actually, and he doesn't have the extra mastery, so that is going to be a 5-minute flash for him. We'll have to see. A lot of these teams have been talking about how important it is to time more and more abilities and more summoner spells. The flash is one of the easiest ones to time and one of the biggest, so we'll have to see if either of those two in the top lane, either Zion or Nintendude, actually do take that into account and time the flash, because a repeat visit from Nintendude now would be pretty good for Zion, because they definitely want to get Zion rolling early.
And I feel like it's got to make Chris so afraid, too, because he knows he has no flash. He knows Jarvan is freaking scary, and he's like, well, I have this W. I can use my Shadow Clone to jump away and try to dodge something, but does he just never get to use that to fight Riven ever again? Is he just pressing Q and E and like saving a little bit of energy so he can always escape Jarvan?
See, that's the thing. There's a trade-off now. Chris can play defensively and save his Shadow for an escape, but it means he cannot fight Riven. You cannot fight her at all, and he can't even use it to CS from afar, so it'll have to be the shurikens that he's throwing out instead. Very, very tough choice for him, and so it just goes to show how successful that gank was, even though they didn't get an actual kill.
So let's take a look at some of these other lanes, though, and compare, because Mashme on Draven is something new. We've actually seen a lot of players pick up Draven this season. Mashme's got him now. Cop's been playing him every game he pretty much can so far in this split, and it just seems like the number of Draven play, like it's pretty much just Doublelift. He's the only guy who's like, no, I'm still not playing Draven. Like everyone else is happy to play that guy.
Doublelift is stubborn. He's not going to change his mind. He stands by his statements. You know, well, you can say what you want about him, about his trash talking, but he's standing by it here, and he's not going to adapt to the Draven meta, the League of Draven that has come about.
Draven. Man, and it's funny, too, because Draven is the most popular AD carry in North America this split so far. Ezreal's number 2 right behind him, but everyone's been really on that Draven train right now. But what's funny to me is Coast picked up all these great early game champions, right? They got the Draven lane with a Nami to help bully people out. They've got Zion Spartan on Riven. They've got Jarvan, who's just known for his early game pressure. And despite all that, they haven't won any of their lanes. The gold is still 600 apart. You still got a lead here for velocity. And, I mean, even the first blood in Evaniscus.
Yeah, I mean, well, that first blood was actually because of how early and aggressive this Coast team was. They've picked the Nami and the Draven to go for that bubble plus Draven ridiculous damage combo. They just misplayed it, and that's the reason that they're behind. So it's all their fault.
Yeah, guys, well, we are back into the game. Of course, Vile Rose, we're going to check him out as he clears up in mid. Nintendude, we talked about his early jungle pressure. He is lurking around. There are no wards spotting him out. He's going to look for it. There's the push in by Shifter. Pops the ult. Vile Rose knocked up as well. Another root coming in from Shifter. The crowd control chain, but the counter attack. Look at the damage output that Vile Rose can put down.
Great job by Vile Rose, still able to answer, even though he was ganked, trading for a kill. Of course, it's less gold for your team, but it's always better to get something than nothing.
Well, right now you can see the attempted gank there by Nasus. I don't think Wither does much.
So, yeah, that right there is the reason I was talking about. You don't expect much early Nasus ganks. Because they usually end up like that.
They do end up like that. And actually, we just saw Evaniscus put the lantern behind him like, yo, I got a Nasus.
Chris!
Oh, Chris, you got to be afraid of Zion. Spartan pops the red elixir just in time and will survive. He made sure to use that cooldown, or the consumable here. NK Inc.'s going to square up against Zion, but not an easy fight for him.
You always want to be able to use that elixir offensively, but since he was forced to in this situation, you can see wait till the last second to pop that, and did save his life there. So Chris going to be okay. Coming back to lane, now that the red elixir is ticking, he actually will have the advantage since Zion hasn't gone back to buy yet. He's just buying right now, and he'll get a couple of Dorants to even that one out.
So double Doran's Blade and Boots and a ward, so he just got all kinds of rich right there and wants to put more pressure on the lane. Compared to Chris, though, that guy bought up a Vamp Scepter and the Doran's Blade, so clearly going for Ruin King or Bloodthirster, but a lot more sustained for Chris. Should have a much better time in this fight.
Yeah, the Ruin King and Bloodthirster are pretty much the only routes for Zed. Yeah. Everybody likes to go full offense, and it's really the trade-off between the dueling potential and the active damage there that you can double up with your Deathmark versus the pure auto attacks. Here we go. They're going to tower dive this one.
They're just looking for it. The ult comes by from Chris. Zion Spartan, it's on him to survive. Deathmark's going to pop right there, but still above half health. NK Inc. has like no HP running away from the turret. But of course, Zion does not have a way to chase, so they'll get out, but it's a very unsuccessful gank.
Zion really wanted to get back in there and just touch NK Inc., but he couldn't do it because of the red elixir here from Chris. He's going to be able to keep his distance.
So, well played by Zion. We can see Shifter. He's, Nintendo is a player who just tends to give away farm and give away the map to his teammates, and Shifter is kind of reaping the rewards. You just saw him take away the Wraith camp here, and with blue buff, that guy's got some really good wave clearance, some really good farming potential.
And after Shifter just got blasted by Vile Rose in that last gank, I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't pick up any more magic resistance to avoid that happening next time. Maybe he's actually planning to use his ultimate defensively next time, because Lissandra can actually use her ultimate on either an enemy or on self-cast, and she can encase herself. It's like a sort of free Zanya's within her kit.
So we'll end up seeing if his reflexes are good enough to save himself during one of these barrages. So right now, he's had a rough time in those duels before. You can see a 2-to-1 kill lead here for Velocity. However, the minion kills have started to bring it back for Coast. We had a 600 gold lead during the pause. We're now at only 300. The game, again, is getting closer. Mashme and Daydream have actually caught up in minions and this bottom lane as well. However, NK Inc. is ready to counter-engage down here.
It looks like we have an engage down bottom, though. This one's going to go off.
And there we go. The Varus ult did come across, but the flashes have let Coast escape. Mashme's going to put his ult down. Maple Street did take a bunch of pain during that encounter, but does not go down here. NK Inc.'s going to help keep that lane pushed as they shove the minions down.
That was another just a trotting Nasus gank there. Just sort of walked into lane, mosey on by. They did pop the Varus ultimate, but it wasn't enough CC there, and everybody gets out scot-free on this one.
So I do have to commend Velocity, just to sort of talk about the teams that have a rough start to the split but still catch up in the end. I always like to make sure the teams are close in general, in the general trend of things. And you're seeing Velocity with, again, an early game lead against a heavily
turret
favored
dive?
Team. And it's going to be, there's the dive in. A lot of ults being burned, and Zion Spartan, he's not going to survive this one here at all. There we go, Velocity, right? They are not afraid. They are just going for kills against a favored team.
Yeah, that was a great roam, but Shifter looking to make some work of his own.
And look at the crowd control chain there. NK forced to flash away, but there comes the ult in, the Cataclysm from Jarvan, and I don't think he's getting away from that one. Shifter takes the kill. For every move Velocity makes, Ghost has one back.
Yeah, so that was a great roam by Vile Rose to go up and get the kill top, but Shifter didn't have to roam for his kill. The dog just walked right over there, and they're able to answer back, get one. The only problem is that was in the bottom side of the map, so that means dragon control.
And there it is. It's going to be a turret traded for it, though.
Ooh,
Vile Rose, he's going to flash, but there's a flash W. Shifter trying to make this happen. The bubble lands. Vile, you are so incredibly dead right now. He actually stopped at the last second and was like, all right, you got me.
So dangerous. That's sort of a solo queue move to sort of face check dragon area when you don't have wards in the area. Very, very dangerous, especially against a team like this, like we talked about, having so much CC with the Lissandra plus the Nami there, easily picking up Vile Rose, and now he won't have his flash either.
That is not a good thing for this Velocity squad. So suddenly, the fates have been turned around a little bit, twisted, if you will. Got a 200 gold lead for Coast, but Velocity might not make that sit for very long. They've got so much pressure on this bottom lane. They got first blood in it, and you're seeing this turret fall lower and lower. Maple might even... He won't tank for it, but this is 2 shots from dead.
Whenever you have a turret this low, you want it to be able to use that turret as bait. And we'll have to see if they actually send Nintendo down here, because it would be the perfect time. Maple Street and Evaniscus want to finish off that tower so badly to get that global gold. But it's very dangerous for them to overextend against a jungler like Jarvan.
And of course, speaking of Jarvan, he is now coming down. You call it if he might show up to defend this and use it as bait. You're seeing Maple Street still try to wave through this. The Halo Arrow's coming by as well. He wants to get on that turret, but as you mentioned, Jarvan is lurking just in the shadows. We might have a fight in our hands.
So many pings down here. Daydream and preemptively pink wards the side bush to make sure that there's no vision that will see Nintendo coming in here, and you can see great job right there on the camera. Guys with the Fog of War, so sneaky.
Knock up there onto Evaniscus. He's going to flash away. The Varusol comes by, but here comes the tidal wave from Nami. Will land on the Thresh, but nothing's going to happen out of this one.
They weren't far enough in the lane. It looks like Chris Dragon's not going to do a tower dive here. He just zones out
Shifter! There it goes. Shifter forced to ult himself. That will make him survive against him, but a lot. Oh, he might not. Oh, last tick of Ignite. Shifter just barely survives that one. Mashme actually goes down in the bottom lane, though. Evan, Iscus, Nasus, and co making that one happen.
That was another little bit of overcommitment down there bottom, and Nasus happened to be in the area showing up. NK Inc. in the right place at the right time.
Absolutely is. So that's one of the big things about a jungler. Looking back actually way back when Complexity got their first win against Dignitas, was amazingly good gank sense and counter gank sense by Loud Mortis. And you're seeing that here from NK Inc. He was in the right place at the right time, turned that fight around. Bottom lane continues to go very well for Velocity.
Yeah, and I also want to shout out Chris for that play. That was great. It's one of the bonuses of Zed. If you use your Shadow to harass, you always have the option of turning back around if your mage does land a combo.
Shifter wants to get the slow on a Vile. The push is going to be on, but he's going to get stunned out. Vile puts the pain across, but just not enough. Chris says, I don't have an ult, dude. You're by yourself.
Yeah, and that's another kill reorder because Valro still doesn't have his flash back up from that earlier Dragon area face check that cost him his life.
Of course, Chris at least has come back by this point. Put it back on cooldown, used it a while ago, but the flash cooldown is definitely certainly very important for these guys. Of course, we saw the Dragon go down a while ago, another important timer for these guys. But while the blue's being taken, Velocity just says, great, mid-turret, you killed one of us. We're just going to take your buildings anyway.
So the entire outer perimeter is down for Coast right now, and Nintendude in trouble.
Here comes the Lantern across. NK Inc. might show up, but because he jumps over the wall, he's going to be safe here. The team's going to recover and regroup down towards the bottom side of the map. Zion Spartan, though, typical Coast fashion, leaving him in that top lane, take the farm, maybe even get a turret out of it.
Well, he desperately wants to get some sort of map control back for his team. The top turret was at such high HP, though, that they haven't been able to answer. And Velocity just... all their outer turrets really looking very healthy right now.
3-0, that outer ring has been broken. The map control might just be going their way. Again, a 1,300 gold lead just 15 minutes into the game. The underdog Velocity are putting on a very good show here. They've had really close games against other top teams. They're certainly still looking good here.
Chris going on the offensive right now.
Just pops in a bunch of damage, but Zion Spartan is here to counter-engage, but he jumps to the clone across onto the backhand side, trying to kite Zion Spartan, flashes in. This could be the kill for Riven. There it comes across. Oh my god, he does not have the damage. Are you serious? One more attack to go. Dashes. Oh, the clone dodge, and now NK Inc. forced to run away. Chris survives it. I can't believe it.
That was actually a bait by Chris in the beginning. Here, Nami also have to flash.
Wow, Daydreamer just dodged every single spell from Vile Rose, got the bubble down, and got out. He was so close to getting comboed out, but dodged the ult and the Q. I gotta celebrate him a lot. That was really good dodging by Daydreamer.
Yeah, some more nice plays here from Daydream, and no surprise now. Everybody's used to his all-star play. It looks like Don't Mash Me now has a choice in the bottom lane since the wave was pushed all the way to his turret. He can freeze it right now, or he could actually just try and hard push it and get some more vision for his team. Since their entire outer ring of turrets are gone, freezing it is sort of the better decision right now because the only objective that they're going to have to fight over again will be the dragon that comes up, and he'll already be in that bottom lane area.
So a nice little bit of convenience then for Coast. You know, just to be able to have their guys in the right places even when freezing and trying to hide back.
Zion is...
Well, except for Zion. Yeah.
He really does want to answer back turrets. So he's, again, shoving that top lane. It looks like that will draw Chris, though. They have the Dragon timer, so in the 30 seconds, we'll have to see if this is going to be a 4 versus 5 or 5 on 5. Looks like Zion wants to get back and make it a full 5-man brawl.
He did recall back, so these guys definitely do not want to give up Dragon here. 16 seconds to go until that spawns back up, and Daydreamin has grabbed the Oracle's Elixir as well to steal away vision.
So many key items were just completed, too, on the last back here. We have Zanya's all ready for Shifter, so he won't have to use his ultimate defensively. He can lock up one of the key members of Velocity with his ulti and use the Zanyas as his defense.
They pulled Shifters. That's going to be a very tough place for him. Nintendo comes into the fight as well, and there the fight has begun. Zion forced to run away. Shifter still running as well. NK Inc. just forcing everyone back. Oh, stun combo almost lands on a Mashpee that Draven forced to flash to get out. No deaths, but no health bars for Coast.
Yeah, and they're able to scare off the entire team of Coast with the amount of damage that Velocity could put out, which means they're still rewarded with a free objective. So that was a one-team fight. That's definitely a win for Velocity.
Beautiful play then. The hard engage, diving in and putting the pressure down. Evanissus, of course, landing a very, very important hook to start all of that as well. The Dragon does go down. We now see a 2,500 gold lead. Velocity are still making great moves in this game.
And that's the thing, when you do go with so many threats and you have so many people building for damage on your team, like Team Coast, you have to be very careful about any sort of poke. Because getting Zion low before the engage actually happens means that you just lost a huge chunk of your team's damage.
A huge chunk of team's damage could just die at any time. You saw how squishy they were when that burst came across. The Coast team still trying to get rid of these minion waves, still trying to counter-engage, although they do know that, I don't know if they know, but Maple Street is bottom. It is a 5v4 here, and the engage is going to come in. Shift is going to pop the W. He self-ults himself, and there comes the engage. Dagerman finds one kill. NK Inc. caught out as well, but Chris is on the back line. He finds one. He's looking for two. Can he get the kill onto Mashby? Mashby will go down. Chris double kill in the back line, but now he is surrounded. He will not be surviving, but the Ninja taking a 2-for-1 is good. But Coast, of course, wins a 3-for-2 overall.
So because of that, we have Maple Street. That was definitely a conscious decision to have Maple Street ignore middle and push bottom. They were trying to time that with the huge wave that they have top, but Velocity weren't able to survive under the middle turret long enough. That 3-for-2 trade means Maple Street's going to back off, and both of these giant minion waves, top and bottom, will be able to be cleaned up here by Coast.
And it's interesting, too, because Maple Street still had time. He knew the surviving members of Coast were still mid, and he still chose to back, even though he was at the front door of that secondary turret. Yeah,
he could have stayed for one more wave up in that top side. But, you know, not too much vision, got a little antsy, decided to pull back out. It's a very interesting choice. You could see the call happening midway through, too. There was a conscious decision there to have Maple Street stay bottom.
So an interesting fight, of course, here. Coast forcing that battle last time around with the Nami ultimate and the dive on in, but now the game seems to be a little bit more about Baron Nashor. Closer to 20 minutes in, the pink ward has come down from Velocity. They want to make sure that isn't taken while they're unaware. More objectives become sort of focused on the map as time goes on.
Yeah, and that last trade really was great for Coast. It brought them much closer in gold back to Velocity here, and it really was because of the early back there that allowed them to clean up most of those minion waves that were pushed to top and bottom.
So good cleanup, then bringing the gold closer, as you say, only 400 gold apart. So the first blood kind of nullified Coast back up in the lead on kills. The turrets still 3-1. That one has not been equalized just yet. Coast still losing on that front, but they found ways to get the gold back either way. We take a look now at how the teams are progressing on items, because you've got the auras just started finally for both junglers. Part of Aegis for NK Inc., part of Aegis for Nintendo, but neither are doing more than taking for themselves just yet.
And the Aegis not as important for Velocity as it would be there, because, you know, they have that very high AD carry there, Zion Spartan up in the top lane. They aren't running double AP. Most of the AP damage would really just be coming from Shifter, so definitely more focused on armor as their defense for Velocity.
And you're seeing that the Ninja Tabby had been picked up by NK Inc., knows what teams he's fighting against, and itemizes accordingly here. The pressure, though, is on Velocity, looking for some pressure. Seeing the poke coming out from Violet Rose, hits 2 in a row here, really whittling down the health bars of that Coast lineup.
Yeah, a lot of people also forget that Aegis of the Legion and Bulwark do give armor as well. It's not only magic resist, so it's always a decent buy.
Certainly the Bulwark upgrade doesn't help armor anymore, but yeah, the Aegis at least itself. So there we go, more poke coming across Velocity, 5v4. We've seen this one before on the other side of the map, and this is Velocity taking down a turret rather quickly, down below half health. Looks like Coast does not want to front for this, but Zion Spartan is still pushing on the left-hand side of the map. I want to see whose base starts dying faster.
They want him to duel somebody. They're keeping him in that top lane as a threat, hoping that Velocity will just send one person and Zion can outplay them. But it's not going to be the choice here. Now it's up to Coast to keep the rest of Velocity in their sights so that Zion doesn't get ambushed.
Well, too late for that. They've already had to send him back right there saying, hey guys, the coast isn't clear for you anymore. You've got to turn back. Velocity's coming in cheesy. Again, I said it would happen. The race coming down, but Zion forced to run away. He's going to regroup with the team. The pressure has begun again on Baron. Evanescence with the Oracle's Elixir. They're going to force Coast to constantly ward over the wall and keep checking for this.
And neither of these teams can outright just go for Baron right now with when the other team has vision. So they're going to clear it out and look for a bait here. They've got plenty of poke over the wall from Velocity, and they even have a hook from Evanescence. So it would be fairly dangerous for Team Coast, but they know that it's so chancy for Velocity to go for that right now.
The interesting thing, though, was that Coast couldn't hold it very well. Daydreamon's Ruby Sightstone had run out of ward charges, and he had low health and had to recall, which left Nintendo as the only guy to check Baron for the team. And when Velocity saw that, they were like, huh, The support's not around anymore. All right. And just kind of didn't go for it anyway. Of course, still hard to push for 22 minutes in when the other 4 people could be around and stopping you. So instead, Velocity look for other jungle camps to take down. Maple Street right now grabbing the lizard buff for himself, giving some of those slows to Varus, and you're seeing actually he's scaling up quite nicely. Infinity Edge and starting on Zeal here on Varus compared to the Bloodthirster and uncompleted items for Mash Me.
So Mash Me, you know, his damage will be reduced a lot if he's not able to catch those axes. So Draven really relies on a very strong front line to keep most of the attention focused on them. And Jarvan and Lissandra are great for that because Lissandra's got that AoE snare that she can Frost Nova everybody in place and let Don't Mash Me continue to throw his axes and continually pick them up to put out the maximum damage that Draven's potential is. But look, again, a split pushing Zion Spartan with no teleport means it's up to these 4 members of Coast to try and stall Velocity.
And I gotta hand it to Velocity. Every single time that Zion is split pushing, he's trading an outer turret for Velocity taking an inner turret. So Coast is clearly trying to make things happen with that split push, but Velocity are playing very aggressively. They're, okay, you're splitting, great, 5v4, we'll take a turret, now react to us.
And it's very dangerous because they do have that Thresh, and the threat of the hooks landing are always there. Daydreaming answers with a nice bubble, though. Good counter.
Good counter indeed. They are going to send actually Chris back to dual Zion Spartan, so that 1v1 will happen. A 4-on-4 on the top side of the map. Will Coast look for a fight? Their main carry is not around. They've just got a half item. Don't Mash Me. The Nation's going to go in. Shifter looks for it. Here comes the fight. Maple Street getting pushed towards the back. He's going to whip the ult as well. And Shifter still wants to chase down Maple Street. Wills fall down, but it's a 1-for-1 so far. The battle continues. Mash Me and Daydream the only ones left alive. A 2-for-1 victory for Velocity. But in the back side, the bottom side, I should say, actually Chris has been forced to sit behind Zion Spartan. Zion is making all kinds of weird things happen to that Ninja. As the top lane, the push still comes through. Mash Me has to be a little bit afraid. Of course, those axe catches can make it easy for the shots to land. NK Inc. taking some pain, has a lantern to go to. Won't retreat out of that one. Still, the team fight win was there for Velocity.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication there for Coast. They initiated, definitely paid for that one. And since Val Rose has built the early cooldown reduction in that Morellonomicon, he was sticking around. They wanted to continue the pressure and keep the rest of Coast inside their base for as long as possible.
And actually, I called it wrong as well on what Chris did. Chris didn't actually try to duel Zion Spartan. He went behind him and proxied the minion wave, which meant that Zion could not push the turret down because he had no minions to tank it for him. And so Chris is like, you want 1v1? I don't care. I'm going to take a lesson from Singed and not let you push at all.
This is a very dangerous situation for Chris, though, if he does get seen out, because he has no energy from fighting the dragon this whole time. It looks like he'll get it for free, though, and it's a nice pickup there. Zion, and nobody in the entire game here for Velocity is aware that he's still down there.
He was hiding around looking for someone to actually fight like Chris, and actually he might just find him now. Will he spot Chris coming around the side?
Oh,
should have the vision. Here comes the battle. Will he go in? Ult pops. There comes the Ignite as well. Trying to chase down. Ult comes in from Chris. Here comes the trade. Jumps back. Goes for the shadow across the wall and escapes that one. Beautiful disengage by Chris. Zion says, okay, well, I can kill your minions then.
Yeah, he can definitely win the fight. Now he's got the pressure in the lane. He'll get some more damage on this turret, and it leaves Chris to have to heal before he can come answer. Wow, it's again a 4 versus 4 for the rest of the team. So we have 2 little microcosms here where Chris and Zion Spartan all alone in the bottom lane.
And there we go, the 1v1 has begun. Ignite burn by Chris this time around, puts some extra damage on a Zion Spartan, and the Riven chooses to run back, knows he's in enemy territory, but he's still got the turret for it. So now, a while ago it was 3-0, then 3-1. Now it's 4-5. Coast are much closer in turrets. The split pushes from Zion Spartan have closed that turret gap.
And the duel is very deceiving between Zion and Chris. Even though they both come out at half-life, Chris on that Zed does have the extra damage that will come in from his passive. Whenever your opponent's below 50% health, you get a nice little boost there with that extra 8% of their maximum health up and magic damage. And now we've got another catch!
And they got already the kill onto Evaniscus now. NK Inc. forced to hold the line. A great ult from Maple Street actually stops the team from chasing in as well. But the immediate burst from Coast gets the 1-for-0. And now Velocity has to be scared.
And that's a huge playmaker down for Velocity too, so they cannot be aggressive at this point. It's up to Coast right now to regain vision of the map.
Let's see if they can do it then. Of course, they do have. Let me actually check what Maple Street's got. Or sorry, not Maple Street, but Daydream. And he does have an Oracles for 3 minutes still. 2 more charges on his Ruby Sightstone. And he is starting to take that vision claim back, running around and making sure those wards go down. 25 gold every time. He's blinging. You can see that 29 CS. Ward kills are a lot of that. Zion just wants to keep visiting Chris.
They're going to continue with this solo down bottom where they want the duel here for Zion. He's got to level up on Chris, and when he has his ultimate available, then he does have the upper hand. As we've seen Chris, either go farm minion waves behind Zion or just run away over walls from Zion.
And I like the itemization choice done by these guys. Just the fight's been cool, of course, but the itemization choice is very, very interesting because Chris is the only guy in the team who's bought home guard boots. He is the designated I recall and fight Zion Spartan guy. They've chosen him and said, you're the one.
It's obvious why they've chosen him, because Zed is definitely the best duelist on that team. You're not going to send Bao Rose or somebody down there to try and heads up Zion.
So Chris is going to get the red buff this time around. Last one went to Maple Street. Chris gets this one for his troubles, and he's going to use that presumably to help fight against Zion Spartan at some point. But Zion, it's kind of funny. If you want to know what Coast is going to do, watch Zion Spartan. And right now, Zion is going back to rejoin his team, so Coast looking to team fight.
Yeah, there's a reason that he is the captain, and so it's easy to tell what they're doing by following the bunny ribbon suit here. They do get a couple pings out on Baron, so they're going to try and change the game. They're going to rush for this Baron, but they will sort of try and force Velocity into one of those face check situations. And here's the hard engage.
The fight just starts right here. NK taking a bunch of pain. The Wither has been exhausted, and there comes the engage. Oh, the burst damage comes across. Dangerous steals another kill, but Chris has come into the back lines. Now, can he do much? A 3 for 0 so far. Nope. Chris can't do much. He's forced to run back from this one. Coast, a 3 for 0, but it's not even done. They're still chasing down for Chris. Shifter is going to pop the E, jump across the wall. Can they reach to that Zed? Yes, they can. Explodes his face apart. Coast with a 4 for 0. They look for Baron.
Some beautiful Lissandra play here from Shifter, and you have to note that even though he does have Zanya's, he keeps using his ultimate defensively.
The ult does damage equally to everyone. He loses a 1.5 second stun, but he basically saves the Zonya for it. So the total damage doesn't go anywhere, gains a little bit of utility, and you're going to see that Coast are going to continue to push down Baron, and no one's going to even stop this. This is theirs for sure.
Yeah, so they are able to get that Baron, and the reason that Shifter plays like this is because Coast is that team that always love to have so many threats. They want everyone to be building damage, and so Lissandra's that great champion. 2 sets of invulnerabilities means that Shifter can zone out Velocity, and basically he's the tank. He's not really soaking up damage. He's just being invulnerable for so long that Velocity can't put it out.
That's true, and like Valrose is the one guy who picks Kale like every game. You'd think they'd be used to people being invulnerable for like 5 seconds at a time, but this time around Velocity having a little bit more trouble when it gets to the team fight phase. Coast have adapted to an early game deficit pretty well right now. So let's take stock of the situation. Baron buff here on Coast. The gold lead back in Coast's favor now, up 3,000, and they finally started pulling Zion Spartan back into the team. The split push days started to end here. They're looking for a way to actually close the game out, it seems.
I'm glad that some teams are looking to close games out nowadays.
Yeah, CLG.
After all these CLG games. 30 minutes is definitely the time that we're looking to start taking some inner objectives here. With the Baron buff, it means that Coast definitely have the option to tower dive, but since they don't have a traditional tank and they use Shifter's invulnerabilities as their tank, that doesn't work against towers, because if you use an invulnerability against the turret will just switch targets and destroy one of your squishies. So tower dive is actually fairly hard for Coast right here.
And it's actually one thing that Velocity knows firsthand. I actually remember doing a clip where Chris was the one to engage, took a Kale, then popped Zonya's, and immediately Kale had to run away because she pulled turret aggro when the Zonya's was popped. So this could be, it's something that at least Velocity are aware of. It was like, yeah, if you invulnerable, we'll hit someone else and we'll hopefully take them down. So it is on Nintendo here. It is on him to make sure that turret just hits him a heck of a lot and he gets to tank it through. See if he can make that one happen right here, because the wave clear, of course, so good from Velocity. It's making engages very hard for these guys.
Yeah, and even Nintendo does not want to be tanking a turret because he hasn't built that much armor. It's mostly it's coming from that bulwark there, and they're deciding. You just can see that they're deciding to go a split push instead. They don't feel like they want to dive either. They've gone through the motions as well, and they would rather just get the split pushing pressure here. It's just the right choice. They're getting free turrets, and it's going to give them a free dragon as well.
I can't believe that. So 5-5 now in turrets. Again, since the beginning of the game, they went from 0-3 to 5-5. So a 5-2 turret play over the last 20 minutes or so in this game. And of course, the gold lead and kill lead going towards them as well. Mid-game seems to be very, very strong for this Coastline. They are making a lot of really, really good plays and turning things around. So I said the split push might end, but it seems to have not have. Only one secondary turret remains.
They've increased their gold lead so much just from the utilization of this Baron buff, though, that when Team Coast go back to, excuse me, push, buy purchase with that gold, then they're going to have an even bigger lead. And even after that Baron buff does fall off, they'll have the upper hand.
I'm wondering what they can do with this upper hand, though, because I'm basically watching what Velocity is doing. So we know that Coast is winning. We know that they're trying to split push. They're making advantages. They're getting their way into the map. But Baron's down and Dragon's down. And they've got Varus and Xerath that just fully clear minion waves with their Qs combined. And the minions don't even see turrets here from the Coast lineup. They have to go around, they go actually around behind them and try to start the fights out. This might just be enough for them.
Yep, they're finishing a couple turret shots right here, and they get that middle turret down to 33%. Great work already done right there. Zion, you can see, trying to pull people away.
He's got the ult on from Chris, takes a bunch of pain here, down to 1/3 health, and just kind of re-engage, trying to find a way out. And the rest of Coast are coming in. The Nami ult comes in just to try to scare off the Velocity guys and says, look, we got him away from you, surf on back home, but the GA is down for Zion Spartan.
Huge win for Velocity right there. Zion was trying to pull people away, but he bit off way more than he could chew. Nobody was able to answer, and that was a free down to GA, which is very, very important on that Riven. And no turret was taken in answer for that GA kill.
So just a 0.5 for nothing then for the Velocity lineup here, putting things a little bit back more towards their perspective. But I want to look at sort of now who it falls upon to make these games victories, because when you talk about CLG games, it's like it's on Doublelift. Doublelift's a split pusher. He's the guy who gets all the farm. He's the one who carries the game. For Coast, it's clearly Zion Spartan. Riven has 321 minion kills. Zion Spartan's doing amazing in this game. He's the playmaker here. But for Velocity, they're actually splitting it very, very equally. You've got basically 230 to 250 on all three of the main carries, Chris, Vile, Rose, and Maple Street. They don't have like that one guy who's going to carry. It's on all of them.
Right, and those three people have very different roles in the fights too. We have Zed, the duelist, that's supposed to be keeping Zion in check, and he's doing a good job of it.
Flash away from Zion Spartan, and the hook lands. Evaniska's doing it blind. Zion's not going to have any follow-up though to scare him away, so he is still alive. Pops the wind slash, doesn't do much with that one. Just some nice healing.
No faith in the support there. Chris was not in position to capitalize on that landed death sentence.
Nice attempted steal, though, by Maple Street, though. It was actually in Fog of War, the Lizard buff that Nintendo pulled, but he was like, okay, it's going to be low now, and tried for it. Didn't quite land. However, Nintendo did smite that one away. He was afraid that Velocity knew what he was up to. But the red buff now, that went to Maple Street, then went to Chris, has now gone to Nintendo. It's starting to get worse and worse, sort of where that buff goes for Velocity.
Velocity are going to head straight up the middle here, though. They feel like sieging up. They do not have a blue buff on Vile Rose, which means their siege can't last indefinitely, and they will have to make a play before he runs out of mana. It looks like the circle around is going to be a very, very close standoff here.
Everyone is in the same area right now. The Q doesn't quite land from Xerath. Vile Rose still the primary terms of poke, but here comes the attempted engage by Nintendo. The team's going to dive forward, but the Lantern's going to pull him to safety. Chris will survive for now. NK Inc. as well. The Coast team still lurking around. They're looking aggressive still, the five of them. Some poke from Xerath will not dissuade them. They still dive forward through all the poke and everything. They still want to get something to happen.
So Velocity are trying to draw out the cooldowns of Coast while kiting backwards. And then after Shifter and Nintendo have expended their gap closers, that's the time for Velocity to turn around. So we'll try and see Velocity poke until they're able to draw out the cooldowns and then make the turn.
And it seems like they've drawn out more than just the cooldowns, they've drawn out the team. They've actually got the position control over the middle inhibitor. They can actually dive for it right now and backdoor it if they wanted, because Coast are not around. They've actually pulled the numbers advantage here. The bubble lands onto one, but the Coast team are split up right now. Some on the west, some on the east coast, and now can they come back in? Chris still on the dive.
Daydream is making a run for it here towards the opponent base, and they actually give him up. They let that fish go, not big enough.
Yeah, the hook's going to land instead onto Baron Nashor, and they're going to make their way forward. The team's going to re-engage.
This is so dangerous.
It's going to be a 5-on-5 here. Now, can Coast go in the right way? There's Intended getting a fight onto Evaniska. The Baron's still taking a bunch of damage, and Shifter goes in the middle. The engage comes across. Maple Street and Co. are starting to fall over. Baron's still on the table. NK tries to take it down. No, Nintendo fights it away. Oh my god, that team fight could not have gone better for Coast.
Oh, Baron's so dangerous. You can't group up inside that Baron pit when your opponents are so far ahead like that. Team Coast, they just collapse and completely surrounded Velocity. Devastating win right there. Coast definitely going to make a beeline straight for the rest of the base.
And they've got 30 seconds of power play right here. They've actually let Zion's part
Zion
back. They're not just all in to win the game. They're sending Zion back to defend and make sure they don't lose top turret, though it still might go down. They're saying, no, we're going to take down the middle turret. We're going to go for the inhibitor, but that might be all they get here.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting choice right there. They didn't want to overextend after that huge win that they got. They know they have a great upper hand, and with the death timers that close, they decided to send Zion back to be safe. If they did have him, that attack damage definitely would have been extremely close, and it would have been one of those exciting Nexus duels that we've been seeing so many of.
Well, Coast remembers their win against Dignitas. Like, you know what happened that gave us a win? We thought we could all in the Nexus and lost the game. You know what we shouldn't do? All in the Nexus and lose the game.
You know what they should do is definitely clear out that bottom wave, though. That thing is gigantic and almost even taking down a turret for itself.
Cash dollars right there for Don't Mash Me, unless Shifter tries to steal it away. That turret, of course, losing a lot of health as well, so Mash will have to clear that one back. Of course, as these teams sort of start to pause and take control of the map again, let's get a replay of that Baron fight.
Yeah, let's look at that Baron fight again, because look at them. They just surrounded the entire Velocity team, and even though Evaniscus lands the hook, the rest of his team is still doing Baron. They're focusing on, and Shifter does his initiation that he's all about with that Lissandra, perfectly cleaning up Velocity. They try and even finish off the Baron. That is not how you win a fight at the Baron. You don't want to keep on damaging it.
No, but in the top lane, Zion Spartan did get just chased on down. So despite the Baron buff, they thought they could push the waves out. Velocity had other ideas and take him out.
That's a huge win for Velocity right now. That's going to give them so much more confidence. They don't think that they're definitely down and out right now. Yes, they're still on the back foot, but that gives them hope.
All right, so we missed that fight during the replay. So to cover for it, we got a replay of the kill of Zion Spartan.
We'll cover our tracks right now. Zion, it was basically just overextended solo pushing.
Yep.
This is what he's been doing all game long, and really this replay is just showing us that the death was even more detrimental than we thought in the first place because the GA was up on him. So now that's going to be a second cooldown that's actually going to be stalling for Coast.
And the 500 shutdown gold went to Chris, in fact, as well. So those two duelists, the gold swinging one way quite a little bit right there. So Zed's going to like that one quite a bunch. Of course, we're now back onto the map. Zion Spartan with 3 seconds left on his respawn. And Coast says, all right, we still have Baron on a few of us. We've still got a minute left on it. What's next for us?
More duels between the bunny and the ninja, probably. And since Chris did get that extra bag of money and the GA down on Zion Spartan, the tides are actually going to be turning in Chris's favor here. So another free dragon for Coast means they can actually extend their global gold lead, but the inhibitor being down in the middle is actually the biggest boon to their team right now because the super minions are going to be pushing by themselves.
They are going to keep pushing. That will make things difficult for Velocity. But the one thing I really want to point out, can we take a look at Zion Spartan's build real quick? So the dude has a Guardian Angel, Ninja Tabby, Last Whisper, but he's going 3 Bloodthirsters.
So the reason that a lot of people actually love doing this is because Riven scales so well with pure attack damage that those are the most efficient pure attack damage endgame items. So if he can just stack up all 3 of these Bloodthirsters, then he will not only be dealing a ridiculous amount of damage with those auto attacks, but he will be regenning so much HP from the lifesteal of each of his auto attacks that he'll be able to stay in the fight for a long time.
Just to point out some numbers because they're ludicrously fun, all 3 casts of Broken Wings combined do more than 1,000 damage. His basic attacks, counting his passive, do over 600. His shield, 500 health. And that's without his ultimate on, by the way. So there's a lot of crazy stats to be gained here for this Riven. Blade of the Exiles with plus 82. He's going to hit people pretty freaking hard.
And the cooldown on that 500 damage shield is only 5.7 seconds, so that's going to be coming out very quickly here. It looks like we do still have that duel, though. Zion and Chris are going to be in the mid lane fighting here, and there goes the ultimate.
He's just diving right on in for it. Can he get the damage up what he needs? There's the ult away from Chris. The Draven, he tags him! Oh, just barely on the way back. Draven making a show of it, but now it's a 5-on-4. Zion Spartan scaring away Valrose. The shield just blocks the damage, doesn't care too much, but the 5-on-4 is here for Coast.
Scumbag, don't mash me. That was a man duel right there, 1 versus 1, and he came in to help.
But there's the engage. Shifter flash ults himself. Nintendo follows up. Shifter's gonna Zodius as well. He's still not going down. Finally drops to Vilerose. That's a kill being traded back and forth as Evaniscus went down, but the inhibitor is under fire. Mash me and Nintendo make sure they take that one down, and now they can look to re-engage. Minion waves are here, and one turret stands between them and victory.
Shifter made good use of his 5 seconds of invulnerability, and Coast looked to capitalize.
They're looking for it. Nintendo just trying to zone away Vile Rose, but people are starting to, not starting to respawn, but they are still healthy. Coast don't want to leave the base. They've still got a 4-on-3. They've got minions still flooding forward. The Q, again, the damage coming across. Bubble will not quite hit. Nintendo's going to jump in down towards Maple Street. Can they get the damage they need? It's going to be towards the Nexus as well, losing more and more health. Zion Spark trying to make Vile Rose fall over. He will do that. Nash being forced to run back, but it's now a 2-on-4, and Coast are still walking forward. Nintendo leading the charge onto the Nexus. Maple Street trying to deal the damage he can. Looks for Mashme. Can he get the damage? No! Yes, he can! But Zion trades back, and now the Nexus taking 5,000 damage in attack from Zion Spartan, and Coast takes the win.
Congratulations to Team Coast. Very nice usage of